Greg Shoemaker, TriStateFootball.com, here at Covington Catholic with head coach Dave Wirth. And the Colonels are coming off a 10-3 season. They've won 29 games in the last 3 years under Coach Wirth. And Dave, I mean, last season, a lot of injuries. This season, the good news is those injuries and those players, they got experience. How good are you guys going to be this year?
Well, I think we have a shot to be good. We're like, a few of the other Northern Kentucky teams, and we're lucky we got some talent. We didn't plan on having this many guys with experience coming back. That certainly wasn't part of the plan. But at this point, we're fortunate to have it. We got 12 lettermen on one side of the ball and 11 lettermen on the other side. So a lot of good, tough game experience, and I think they're pretty motivated. I mean, it's been a number of years that we've checked out in the regional final, so they're looking to get past that mark this time for sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Highlands has been your nemesis in the district and the regionals as well, and I think they've beaten you something like 10 straight times. Is there a mental block that you have to prepare your kids to get over with trying to beat this Highlands team?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a mental block. I think sometimes it's probably overstated. I mean, they're a real good football team. So I think when you play any other team that's a really good football team and you get bad breaks or you make mistakes, you have that effect in the game where things can snowball on you and they can go from a one-score game to a two-score game, which has been the situation the last 3 years in the regional final. When you go in at half and you're right there, then all of a sudden it's one score, two score, and then all of a sudden your mindset changes. All of a sudden you're calling your plays a little bit differently offensively, defensively. You're probably taking more risks than maybe you need to. But yeah, there is certainly a mental aspect to it. Because physically I don't see a great difference anymore. When I got here, there was a pretty serious difference in terms of athleticism and speed. Maybe not necessarily in the size, but there certainly was in terms of the athletic potential. And I think we've either narrowed that gap or evened it. So, right now it's a matter of execution. They've played those three games in district better. They played those 3 games in the regional finals better, and that's where we got to get to. We got to execute better.
Okay, I'm going to move on to your schedule. Yeah, you got Highlands, but you've coached on both sides of the river. One of the things on the Ohio side of the river is scheduling is very difficult. You don't want to lose games because only 8 teams make the playoffs in each division. Yet here, on the Kentucky side, you can afford yourself some opportunities to take some chances. You got Moeller on the schedule this year. Talk about how you look at non-conference scheduling here in Kentucky as compared to when you had it in Ohio.
Well, it's a keen observation because there's a really big difference. In Ohio, you got to be really careful about how you schedule. It's an extremely challenging thing to make the playoffs over there. I know because I was a bridesmaid standing there at number 9 3 times. It's a really difficult thing. You can be 7-3, 8-2, 9-1 and not make it. And maybe you scheduled a team that you thought was going to be good, and they lost 2 or 3 games that you didn't think they would, and all of a sudden that affects your Harvey standings and you're not in the playoffs. Here it is different. Most everybody gets in the playoffs, be that good, bad, or indifferent. So we have the luxury as a Northern Kentucky team to be able to maybe schedule up a little bit, and to take some shots at a big school like Moeller, who's got twice as many boys, or St. Axe that has 3 times as many boys. We get the luxury of playing those games without a whole lot of concern as for what it's going to do to our playoff status. The only negative in those games can be, if physically, things go wrong for you. And in my experience, that's only happened one time, and that was last year with the Moeller game, where we lost our right tackle and we lost our Z receiver. We lost Stewart and Braun, for a considerable amount of time because of injuries in that game. But yeah, we always want to schedule a GCL South opponent. We feel strong about that. They have so many good players. They're so well coached. They have such great tradition. And it makes us up our level of preparation, and it makes our guys up their level of play.
Well, let's talk about level of play. We'll start right on the offense. Adam Wagner, your quarterback last year, went down after 4 weeks. You inserted sophomore Ben Dressman, did a great job, threw for over 1,700 yards and just 29 touchdowns accounted for. Now you got the luxury of having both of them back in the backfield. How are you planning on using those guys?
We're using both a lot. The bottom line is they're both great football players. You just got to get the ball in their hands. They're both incredible runners, and they're both very good passers. So they're not quite Blake Burr in terms of passing, But they're both very good passers. If they're taken for granted, they'll really hurt you, especially with some of the guys we got out running the routes. So we're in a very good position there. We got good underclassmen in that position as well. So the bottom line is for us, those guys will be on the field and they're going to get a lot of touches because it would be stupid not to.
CovCath never hurts for size, it seems like, on both sides of the ball. Can you talk about what you've got coming back offensive line and defensive line wise? And are you going to use many of those guys both ways?
Yeah, we won't use any of those guys both ways. We'll certainly two platoon. I really don't see anybody on the team going both ways. Obviously we'll have some of those skill guys double up a little bit on the specials, but there won't be anybody playing offense and defense. On the offensive line, most of the size lies with our big tackle, Sam Muir. At this point, early in the summer, has got a few MAC offers and a lot of 1AA offers, and has been out doing a lot of camps and really getting around, making a name for himself. He's flown beneath the radar for a while. He's only played 2 years of football, so he's really peaking at the right time. He'll certainly lead the offensive line. We got a center, Jacob Roth. He's a good-sized kid. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. He's played 2 years of varsity football for us very well, and so he'll be the center of the line, and he's a real smart kid. And then we got a few seniors that are in the mix at guard: Joe Badani, Matt LaFontaine, Pat Hennies, Nick Shea. We got 4 other senior linemen that are all nice players and athletic and strong. And then we got a couple underclassmen that are really big, really athletic. Chris Reisiger, Michael Schulte, Nathan Bowdy. All those guys saw time last year. And then you got some guys behind them too. They're sophomores. You got 6'7", 240-pound sophomore tackle, Hunter Ziegelmeyer. You got a 6'5", 225-pound guy, and Mark Mayer. So you're right. We got some size there, and we're trying to work on developing them and get them on the field, and might actually be running some of those guys in and out. On the D line, we're not going to be really big, but we'll have good size. We'll certainly be extremely athletic. Luke Furch at defensive end, 6'3", 230 pounds, also punts for us. He's an athletic freak show. Chandler Brooks will be returning. He was probably one of the top D linemen last year. He's a 6 foot, 220-pound kid that's really athletic. Played defensive end for us. Nate Bailey on the inside. He played nose for us all year. He's a really nice player. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. Brody Thorson, Lucas, you got Shieldsy. Chris Holthouse will be back this year after a knee injury. He played every snap as a sophomore. Was a great player, so we're excited to have him back. So we're in a pretty good situation with both fronts.
Back 7 on defense. The last 2 years, you guys have had a lot of shutouts, and a large part of that was because how experienced you were in the back 7. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about who's coming back. I know Pitzer at linebacker, but talk a little bit about the secondary and your linebackers, because Burchell, one of the best that's ever played here, is now gone. Yeah,
well, fortunately and unfortunately, we kind of got ahead of the curve on having to find ways to make up for Sam's production last year as senior, because he was just so banged up, and with Sam being the warrior he was, still found his way onto the field and was still really good. But we're grateful now that we got some of those guys' experience in playing those snaps when Sam wasn't in, and even when Sam was still available. So the linebacking core is certainly going to be led by Cameron Pitzer. He played every single snap as a sophomore last year as a tall, lanky, athletic sophomore who ended up leading the team in tackles. Considering some of the guys he had around him, that said a lot. He's a really smart kid. He gets in position well. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes at all. There's a lot to be said for that. So he'll be leading us at the outside linebacker. We've got a couple guys in the mix at inside linebacker, led by Lucas Timmerman and Ethan Sammons, as well as Alex Shelton, who's an up-and-coming sophomore. And then we got another couple seniors, led by Mason Webster at the outside linebacker that looked to make a dent and played pretty well for us. But in the secondary, we got to replace 3 guys that had played, God knows how many games. Between Matthew Way, Austin Oberhausen, and Adam Fish, those guys started, 12 to 13 games a year for 3 straight years. And so to replace them is difficult, but we have 2 guys that played an awful lot, Alex Wagner, safety, and Ben Zumdick. So we got 2 returning safeties that are excellent players. We got a corner who on every other football team in Northern Kentucky would have played last year, and Drew DeMarsh. He's extremely fast, got great ball skills, physical player, nice corner. And then we got a bunch of other guys that are in the mix, younger guys that are going to have to step up. But I think we're going to be in really good shape there.
One last question before I let you go. This is your sixth team you've coached here. Personality-wise, what makes this group different, and what's going to make them be different in the long run?
Each group is different. You're right. This group's a real relaxed group. This group goes about their business in a real easy way. They're not too high-strung, and they're not too loosey-goosey either. It's an interesting group. To be honest with you, I'm used to a little bit more, rigidity. What would maybe seem like a little bit more of a narrow or tighter focus. But these guys are loose. I mean, they've been in and around, and maybe it's because of all the experience that they have. They're not real anxious going into this year. I think they feel real good about their chances. I think they feel good about themselves and their athleticism and their strengths and their skills as football players. So it's a loose but also a very disciplined and focused group.
There you go. That's head coach Dave Wirth of the Covington Catholic Colonels.
Thank you.